All right, folks. Well, welcome to another Bay Area Trails Confidential. I'm Rodney Paul, your host. Very happy to have you with us tonight. We've got a great show for you about a very exciting place, an exciting new park in San Francisco. But first, I want to welcome my co-presenter, Lee Huo. How are you doing, Lee?
I'm doing great, Rodney. I'm really excited about hearing about Tunnel Tops. I just went there myself for the first time back in May, and it's just a wonderful park. They did such a great job.
So that's all true, but we're going to get some inside information about them. So I'm looking forward to that. We are presented by San Francisco City Guides, the nonprofit that's been offering tours of San Francisco since 1978. I haven't done it. The page is pretty sparse right now, but I will be putting links to things we discuss on today's show at this show notes page on our website. And we'll also have the recording of this show there, probably up in about 24 hours. We always like to start off by acknowledging that we are on the unceded land of the Ramaytush Ohlone in the case of San Francisco, the Wheatchin Ohlone here where I am in Berkeley, and just recognizing that people from many of these nations make their home in the Bay Area today, and we start by recognizing them and respecting their ancestors. So this is the agenda for tonight. We're going to be doing a few trail updates, but we're going to spend a lot of the show talking about the exciting Presidio Tunnel Tops Park, and then I'll do a little debrief on my long weekend experience with the East Bay Hills Benefit and the Moraga Lafayette Trail. I do want to share the results of our poll with everybody, so I'm going to close the poll and share the results with you. And you can see we've got people tuning in from around the Bay Area and also, I guess, someone else elsewhere in the United States and someone outside of the United States. If you want to throw where those places are in chat, that would be really fun to find out. Maybe you're someone who loves the Bay Area. And in fact, we're going to be talking about what is kind of a national federal park, the Presidio Tunnel Tops Park. 61% of you have visited this park already. It's only been open for about a year. And then I asked about a number of other places that I was visiting over the weekend: Tilden Park, Joaquin Miller, Mount Diablo, and the Moraga Lafayette Trail, which is a pretty exciting place. And we always want to encourage you to visit new places as a result of seeing Bay Area Trails Confidential. That's one of our goals, is to get people exploring other parts of the Bay Area. So our guest is Allison Stone, who is the Director of Visitor Engagement from the Presidio Trust. How are you doing tonight, Allison?
I'm doing great, Rodney. Thanks so much for having me, and nice to be with you all tonight. Talk about one of my favorite places.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of great information on it. So we'll get to that in just a second. Few trail updates. I just found out today about a really important Bay Trail gap study being done about the area around the San Francisco International Airport. And they're looking for people to take this survey and talk about their experiences trying to get around the airport on the Bay Trail. I actually know quite a bit about that because my father used to live in Millbrae, and I was often biking through this area. It's not the easiest part to bike through, and it's really good news that this is being looked at. Anything, Lee, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's important as well. And as Rodney probably knows, no one else does. I actually grew up in Millbrae, so I know the area very, very well. It's about time that we took some time to figure out how to get a trail through the space. You know, it's a little challenging because you have the airport there, so we can't really be on the bay. So we have to figure out which alignment is best to get people through. So I'd encourage everyone to take a look at the study and answer some questions out there. Feel free to spread that out to anyone that you know that actually lives in the area or travels through the area a lot. The more that we hear from people, the better the alignment will be and the better the study will be.
Yeah, and I'll put that in my Friday email that most of you get. And also, I'll be sending an email after this show. And it'll also be on the show notes page. So really encourage people to take this survey. It really helps them plan this new section of Bay Trail. Also, want to mention one of my favorite historic characters in San Francisco history, Emperor Norton, is going to be honored in a very special way. Emperor Norton, by the way, was the first person to ride a bicycle in San Francisco. Okay, I don't know if that's true, but this is an awesome picture of him on a bicycle. I think it's kind of a bone shaker, if I'm not mistaken. But on September the 17th, between 1 and 4, there is going to be a celebration. It's called Emperor Day, because I believe that is the day in history when he proclaimed himself the Emperor of the United States and Mexico. And there will, I believe they're going to, this Emperor Norton Place is going to become an official, it's going to get some official recognition. So encourage people to go check that out. I'm going to try to make it myself. And they're going to be meeting, this is in the area north of Market Street off of Montgomery, at the northwest corner of Commercial in Montgomery. And then this whole area here is like an Emperor Norton kind of space. So, and I do want to go back and to say, he also commanded that the Bay Bridge be built, and many of us recognize it as the Emperor Norton Bridge. I know, Willie Brown thinks it's named for him, but I don't know. I think Emperor Norton is, to me, the more, he casts a longer shadow in San Francisco history. But let's talk about the Presidio Tunnel Tops. And Allison, I'm going to stop sharing because Allison has her own slides. And you're going to start by giving us kind of a really good, some really good background on this brand new park in San Francisco.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. And thanks again for having me. And thank you for the land acknowledgement. I really appreciate that. Kicking us off. And I'm going to share screen. And I was having technical issues earlier, but hopefully those are resolved. And let's see here.
Oh, and I just want to mention, I'll be monitoring chat. And if you want to throw questions in the chat, I will make sure Allison hears about them.
Thank you very much. Because I won't be able to see anybody. So if I'm going on too long, I love this topic. You can give me the high sign, maybe verbally, because I won't be able to read body language. Because I can't see
Paco is a very, very loyal member of our audience, and he has been to the Presidio Tunnel Tops.
Oh, great. Awesome.
We'll hear from him later.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. Is that full screen?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So yes, before I begin, I'll just say thank you. And my name's Allison Stone. I'm the Director of Visitor Engagement for the Presidio Trust. Happy to answer any questions about the trust and our team later. I just wanted to share, I've been with the Presidio for almost 22 years, a long time. So I've seen a lot of changes. And before that, was in consulting and had no idea. 2 different firms. I worked on projects in the Presidio and never thought I would find myself here. But I am a geographer and planner by training and an avid hiker, love hiking and backpacking, and so appreciate living in the Bay Area with all these amazing trails. So with that, I will kick off and, let's see. It's not, there we go. Okay. And I know you already had a poll and an icebreaker, but I thought this would be great from this group. If people feel like putting in the chat, I would love to see too for some new hiking tips. What's your favorite trail? When's the best time to go? And what should you bring?
Well, and I'll just say my favorite Bay Area trail is the one whatever one I'm walking on. I kind of love so many of them, Allison, but if you forced me to pick one, I think I would pick the section of the Bay Trail, kind of south of Jack London Square, that's heading to there's a place called Brooklyn Basin, because that's where I got the idea to do this show, is right there. That's my answer. But let's see what other folks say in chat. Paco says his favorite is Tunnel Tops. How about that?
All right.
Other
That
folks?
wasn't a plant.
I do think it's a great space. How about you, Lee? What's your favorite?
Oh, that's a really tough one. I like you, I like all trails and just getting outside, but I'm a little partial to anything that gets you near the water. Um, since I grew up near the Burlingame Millbrae area, I have to say I spent a fair amount of time at Coyote Point County, the regional parks. So that's a good place to be. On the other side of the hill, again named after coyotes, is Coyote Hills Regional Shoreline. So that's
That's
great.
great.
Coyote Point and Coyote Hills.
Coyote Hills is really special too. And what about you, Allison?
Oh gosh, there's so many. I in the Presidio, I could name so many, but I was thinking about the region, and as you were talking, I'm gonna say that I used to do every year the 20 miler for the Bridge to Bridge when they did the annual fundraising, and I think that's such an incredible the route that drops you up on Mount Tam, and you take the Matt Davis and then all the way back through to the Presidio. Actually, it's a beautiful, you wind through multiple different trails along Muir Beach, up and over into, I love the headlands. But the Presidio, I will say, that's the home to some of my favorites, including for those who've never done it, the Batteries to Bluffs Trail. It's a very short trail, but it is incredibly beautiful. It just takes you away from everything, and you wouldn't even know that you were in a city actually. And it's a just stunning view of the Pacific and the Golden Gate.
Yeah, and I think what you're going to tell us about Tunnel Tops is going to make us really want to spend more time at the Presidio.
All right. Well, shall I keep moving?
Yeah. Oh, I do see someone saying steep ravine in
Oh.
Marin County. That's awesome. With the ladders and everything. That's really cool.
That's great.
Mike. Yeah, let's keep moving on, Allison.
Okay. All right. Well, so I thought I'd start with some context. I think it's important just in thinking about the making of tunnel tops. So I'll go 50,000 feet and then right on into it. But so high level, this is the Golden Gate National Recreation Area, which I'm guessing because all of you are avid hikers that you're familiar with that. It's one of the world's largest urban national parks. And here, right in the middle, is the Presidio, which is its own distinct national park site. And I love this image. I think it's a really good one to kind of give some context about what it means to be an urban national park and the history of the place. So the Presidio was set aside to become a national park. It was actually in the early 70s, just celebrating the 50th birthday of the GGNRA, this in 2022 in October. But it was part of a nationwide movement on the heels of the civil rights movement and the environmental movement to create a series of these parks across the country, where with the intent of bringing national park experiences closer to where most of us live, which is in urban areas. And in particular, there was a focus on trying to connect and make these resources, these public resources and all the benefits that they provide more accessible to communities that had historically not felt welcome or even safe in national parks. And those communities include people from low to middle income households, people with disabilities, and Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities. And so there was a real vision and effort to make these lands inclusive and welcoming to all. And so for many years, there was a lot of park making activity that was happening. The Presidio is a porous park. It's hard to know until technology caught up and allowed us, but to understand visitation, like how many people are even visiting, and to know more about, who's visiting. So in 2008, we partnered with our sister agency at the National Park Service, who manages the coastal areas, and then the Trust manages the interior, about 80% of the park, along with our nonprofit partner at the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy. We teamed up and did an intercept survey. And at the time, it was one of the most comprehensive in the national park system. It was in 2008, and we learned an incredible amount. It was actually a watershed moment for our planning and thinking and park making. And what we learned was that we were actually serving really well the people who were coming. They were very happy, high satisfaction levels. And we were also really serving predominantly the closest 5 zip codes. And even within those zip codes, the demographic and socioeconomic profile of our visitors really didn't even match those zip codes, let alone the Bay Area and San Francisco. But people were loving the park. They were coming, 80 times a year, spending 90 minutes. We learned a ton, but what we realized was the Presidio was really a beloved neighborhood park, and we had a long way to go to make that urban national park vision realized. And so
just summarize, like you're saying, like there's a lot of good things going on with the Presidio, but you felt like you needed to connect it to more people in San Francisco.
More people in San Francisco and the Bay Area, and in particular those communities that I mentioned that had historically not been underrepresented in national parks. And we were primarily serving a pretty narrow cross section of the public, and we just knew that for it to realize its vision of a national park, we needed to do a lot. And so, did that answer your question, Rodney?
Yeah. So that's like the vision is, we're going to broaden the number of people that are using the Presidio.
The number of people and who. So serving the broader Bay Area, having visitors racially and socioeconomically that, correspond to the region that we live in. Because we were not doing that back in 2008. It was a very narrow cross section, very high income, predominantly white visitors that live within the closest 5 zip codes. And it was really a neighborhood park. And we were serving well that group, but we knew that to be a national park and meet that vision, we had a long way to go.
Great.
So, were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, go ahead. You're
okay.
Good.
So together in this partnership for the Presidio, which I mentioned, our sister agency and nonprofit partner, it led to the last 15 years and ongoing, a lot of deeper listening, learning, experimenting, failing. We've had some awesome failures, and really learned and continue to learn all the time about how do we create together a park that feels inclusive and welcoming. And this input that we've gotten in a whole variety of ways has guided everything from what we build to what amenities are offered, how and where we communicate about the park and what languages, what is our, marketing, our website, like the transportation options, so many different aspects of place. So we continue to test and to learn. And over the last 15 years, we've actually had some really big changes. And I'm just going to share a quick at a glance so that you can kind of see where we've come from 2008 to where we are now. So we realized, as you can see on the slide here, that we had very few first-time visitors. We weren't attracting new people. It was kind of serving the people that lived really close by. And then a decade later, through a variety of different things that we, marketing, programming, activations, partnerships, we saw that move to 40%, which was really big. So we knew that we were making progress there. We've today, and actually these are 2022 numbers because for calendar year, and we saw this in 21, and I suspect in 23 we'll see similar, is that we've actually moved from being a beloved neighborhood park really to being a local, regional, international destination. We have visitors from across the Bay Area, like really big changes in serving more Bay Area wide visitors, and also tracking more closely to the socioeconomic and the racial diversity of the Bay Area, which is really great. And we still have a lot to do to maintain that. We're continuing to learn. But one of the big things that we heard from many people was over the years was that, the Presidio, we heard two sort of things. One is that it's confusing. People don't even understand if they've been inside the park. I've been to Crissy Field, but never the Presidio, but it's part of the Presidio. But really confusing and not an understanding of how to start your visit. There's no sort of arrival, meet me here spot. And the other thing that we heard time and time again was that it's beautiful, but it doesn't really feel like it's for me. It doesn't feel welcoming. And, there are things we have to overcome. We were encircled by a stone wall with cannons at many of the gates. It doesn't necessarily scream welcome to come and explore. So there was a lot to do. And one thing we had this opportunity that actually started back in 1989. There were two things that happened. Curious if anybody can guess what those two things were that set into motion what would become Tunnel Tops.
The Giants and the A's being in the World Series. No, I guess that, it was the earthquake. Did that have any impact on it?
It did, for sure. That was thing one.
Oh, because it impacted the highway, right?
Exactly. It led to that highway being in significant need of repair.
So that's one. Anyway, anyone in chat want to guess what the other one? I'm not
It's
sure.
a little bit of a trick question.
Was it a new president?
Well, no, but it was a federal action. So when I said the Presidio was designated to become a national park, and it was the qualifier was should the Army just determine that it was in excess of its needs, and that happened in 1989 with the BRAC closure announcement, which identified that the Army would be leaving, and in 1994 it actually became a national park site. So those two things sort of set in motion, what would become Tunnel Tops. And so the original plan, Caltrans had come up with a design that would have basically replaced the overhead structure in kind and made it more sturdy and a little bit wider. And it would have actually taken up about 70 acres of parkland to do that, to replace it and make it wider, stronger. And there was a big movement and really spearheaded by a landscape architect, Michael Painter, and fueled by community, tons of community input to really push to say, this is a national park and a national historic landmark district. It's both, and that it really needs to be something different than an overhead 7-lane or whatever it was freeway. And so that led to almost 2 decades of back and forth and pushing, and we landed with the design, which was the Presidio Parkway, which created a much more fitting structure for its setting, and it created opportunities for two cut and cover tunnels where there would be actually new parkland added to the park as part of the project, and that really provided the platform for what we could do at Tunnel Tops. And so that 14-acre site, there's 2 tunnels, and I'll talk about both. This big red circle is where Tunnel Tops is located, really connecting for the first time since the bridge was built and the overhead freeway was installed, this connection between the waterfront at Crissy Field and the heart of the post at the main post, the historic core there. And so knowing that this could be this long-awaited entrance and gateway, we wanted to make sure that we really got a lot of input and that we did it hand in hand with input from the public, from communities. And so it led to, we actually conducted an international design competition and put those out to the public. We had a design lab that was open daily in the park. This is this picture here where we put the different design teams concepts out. We got feedback. We had community meetings, focus groups, panels of experts. We got comments in a whole variety of ways. And that really helped us design and guide what we built. And we selected James Corner Field Operations, who you may know of. They're a design firm, and they had many other subs that supported to design and build. They did the High Line in New York and a variety of many other parks. But we got 10,000 comments. That's how many we received. And all of that input really helped shape and guide both the design, which we'll go through now and kind of talk about the place, but also how we activate it. And part of that activation and really guiding our work is this idea of really engaging community leaders as park leaders to work to help co-create and give us their expertise and us to retain them for that, to help us guide what we're doing. And I'll talk about a couple examples of how we did that. But this is today, or maybe not quite today. Things have filled in even a little bit more, but this gives you a sense of the setting. This is Tunnel Tops right here. So above, if you can picture what used to be an overhead freeway, and then the second tunnel's over here. We'll talk about that in a moment, but this really connects these huge, features of Chrissy Field and waterfront and historic main post.
Yeah. And if I can just comment, it's like you created a park out of thin air, because this is, the space above the highway is generally not used, and you were able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, yes, it's pretty amazing to have that opportunity, because thinking about where do you put that, and this idea of having a gateway so people know where do you begin your visit, and it's intended to really be that for the park, but also for the larger GGNRA. And if you visited the visitor center there, you will have hopefully left with that message. But also in spirit, just national parks in general, like this is a stepping off point. And it's also, if you arrive from the top, from the plaza, which I encourage you to do, especially for your first visit, the visitor centers here, but every national park, when you arrive, there's that aha moment where it's a sense of arrival, but also you immediately understand why it is a national park. And whether that's, Crater Lake and you just look over the edge and see that blue, or you come through the tunnel at Yosemite and it opens up to the view, or, stepping onto the mall, whatever that is. And the intent was really to have that moment and that experience for visitors entering the site. For the first time, that you're in a national park and you feel that inherently. And that was a really big part of the design in creating that view. And we really want, when people leave, the hope is that this is your first experience and it won't be your last, and you'll come back. And we want everyone to leave, and especially young people who may not have had an opportunity to visit a national park, but to be filled with that sense of, joy and wonder, and hopefully encourage the, again, the return visits. And so
Been there a bunch of times.
huh?
I've been there multiple times.
Okay, good. Well, so just a little bit about the site. So I mentioned it's 14 acres, and this is a rendering of the site from the designers, from James Cornerfield Operations. There are multiple gardens, overlooks, picnic areas, and much more. And it's really the way we like to talk about it and think about it. And this shows the topography, but you might not be able to read it. There's this whole section of the site is down at the water level, so there's like a 35-foot differential. So when you enter, you're really on the top coming in this way. And there are three sort of zones. This zone we refer to it as, the visitor gateway. And then this middle zone, which includes all these meadows and gardens, I'll talk more about those, is really the community commons. And then this lower zone is really all about youth. And before we jump in, I'll just make a pitch for anybody who is interested in plants or loves horticultures and gardens. This is just an incredible place to come and explore this landscape. There were over 200,000 plants planted, half of which are native. It transitions from sort of ornamentals that were selected specifically for their biodiversity to what they offer for habitat. But then it transitions to native plants as you come down, and all of the native plants were grown in the Presidio nursery, collected from seeds within the park. And with a lot of support from community volunteers. We have a ton of volunteer opportunities if anybody's interested, everything from hands in soil to engaging visitors and welcome. But another interesting feature, when you come to the site, you'll see a lot of these benches, these really beautiful, unique benches along the cliff walk, picnic tables, all the wood that you see, the big picnic tables and benches in the entry plaza, these picnic tables, they were all milled from trees from the Presidio, from the historic forest that two of the species of the three species are ending their lifespan. And we have a major reforestation program underway. And so there was a lot of material coming from there, and that was all planed and reused at the site, which was kind of a neat feature. So the gateway, so when you enter this experience, this is where all your visitor needs you're going to find. You're going to find the Parks Visitor Center, which if it's your first time, it's this building. This is an interior view. Highly recommend. It's open daily, 10 to 5, that you stop there. Across from, and I'll just go back to the map, across is the Visitor Center. Across from it is the Transit Center. I'll talk a little bit later about our free electric and natural gas shuttle. And a pavilion for shelter if you're cold. If it's a proper San Francisco summer day, you can go inside and enjoy the view through the glass pavilion, but get some warmth. And a soon to come restaurant. There's also restrooms, which is so important in park experience. And just bike racks. There's electric bikes that you can pick up here too to explore the trails. And food. We also have, in addition to the restaurants, we have a daily pop-up food program where we have an amazing array of small businesses with cuisines from around the world that are there every single day, and you can grab a meal or a drink. And the iconic Presidio campfire here, which seats about 75 people, and every day a park service ranger provides a lecture, a ranger talk at 4 o'clock for half an hour. So that's a nice thing to stop by.
What are some of the topics that the rangers talk about?
You know, they curate, each ranger curates, and they range from everything from history to Buffalo Soldiers to the Yalamu, the Ramaytush Ohlone, the original tribe, to you know, different epoch, like history periods in the park. It really depends, and they are constantly changing, but you can they usually know the day of, and they'll advertise it inside the visitor center. They also lead guided walks of the main post, and they'll have they're starting to launch some walking tours of the tunnel tops too. Oops. Okay. So, and before I go on, so I had mentioned that the Presidio activators, which was one of our, you know, after years of engaging with community leaders and getting feedback on how to, you know, do this better and how to help really get real and shape, you know, how this park is coming together. One of the pilots that we launched with the opening of Tunnel Tops was the Presidio Activator Council. And there were 11 leaders. There are 11 leaders. They're just finishing up their sort of 2-year pilot with us from around the Bay, artists, program leaders, activists who helped guide so much of the work here, both in from the marketing materials and the campaign to launch the tunnel tops to what kind of activations happen. And I'm going to share a video to give you a break from my voice, but also to hear directly, which is much more powerful, from one of our 11 Presidio activators about her work. She's an artist, cultural strategist, and activist, and she is responsible for the artwork, which if you've been to the tunnel tops, you've seen it. It welcomes you at the gateway here in front of the visitor center. And there was a large welcome banner that she designed right on the transit center and then also on the lower campus. So I'll let her talk about her work and what she did. And let me know if you can't hear it.
For me, the way that any space can be transformed is through art, and its power is that it speaks to our emotions. I'm Fabiana Rodriguez, and I'm a Presidio activator. I grew up in Oakland, in the Bay Area, in a region full of national parks, and I am the first artist at the Presidio Tunnel Tops. That's very significant. I was very excited to be part of a body that helped shape a future Presidio that was more inclusive and welcoming, especially in the age of climate crisis, when we recognize that structural racism for hundreds of years has left many communities out of national parks. And in fact, communities of color like mine have been relegated to dirty communities, polluted communities. It's critical that we create accessible pathways for everyone to enjoy nature. The Presidio Activators represents a different kind of effort to work with cultural leaders from impacted communities to see how the parks can better serve these communities and how we can rethink these spaces. In order to move forward, we have to look at the past, and that's why my project is titled Ancestral Futurism. My goal in creating this art project was to involve as many stakeholders as possible and to hear different perspectives and voices. And I started by presenting my project to the Presidio Activators, who represent all kinds of communities of color from the region, disabled communities, veteran communities. And I also consulted with Ramaytush Ohlone leaders to get an understanding of the significance of the different creatures that I was depicting. It was important to raise up certain species that had been almost driven to extinction: the mountain lion, the elk, the salmon, the grizzly bear. My goal was to make them colorful and creatures from my imagination that could speak to all audiences, especially to children, so that we can honor that they were once here and hopefully support in their return. I've hardly been to this park before this project. My community didn't have events here. I was never really invited to anything here because it was not a place to gather. To see people of color, families, communities of color, immigrants using the park has to be something that is normalized, and it is a part of how this park functions. People just walk into the art and they feel joy and they express joy and they say, wow, I feel something different. I feel something with color. Color is such a part of so many of our cultures, and now I get to call this park my park. I'm excited about what this park can be, to just invite people from my community and to know that they can hang out on a blanket and look at the Golden Gate while they're listening to hip hop music. I mean, that's like a real dream come true.
Does anybody have any questions on that, or should I keep going? Again, I can't see anybody, so you tell me.
I don't see any questions in chat, but if anybody wants to throw one in there, I'll read it for you. I could also give folks the opportunity to unmute if you would like, if I see a hand raised or something like that. Otherwise, why don't you keep going?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you. So the second zone, the community commons that I had showed on the map there, really it's a collection of lawns. We have a series of meadows and lawns and gardens, and there are 4 scenic overlooks that frame really iconic views of the Golden Gate, of the city, of the Presidio, of Alcatraz. And in this area, we have a whole variety. You can see on these images, some days, you know, when we have events, we have lots and lots of people, and other days, you know, not as many, but it's always, it doesn't ever really feel, even though it may look a little crowded, it actually maintains really good social space. And it's so nice to see. We have barbecues and picnic areas. There are over 200, I think, and 50, we have it on our website, seating spaces for different types of picnicking options, including some lovely one-sided picnic tables where your view of the Golden Gate is your companion on the other side. And those are really fun spaces to enjoy a meal or a drink. These are also the areas where we have activations. We have a series called Sunday Afternoons in the park that were co-curated by some of our community leaders and activators. And our website is a great place to learn about those, and you can sign up. We have a newsletter. It's only like once a month, but it previews any types of events. But yeah, it's a great space that you can bring your own chairs, blankets. There's tons of seating, and just come enjoy and hang out. So that's the community commons. And then the lower space that's really connected to the waterfront is dedicated really around youth. And there are sort of 2, and I might actually I'm going to hop back and just use the map. Oops, there we go. So the lower area, there we go, is when I refer to it, it's this whole space. And within this, we have the Chrissy, sorry about that, the Chrissy Field Center, which is a closed campus. It's for enrolled youth programming. and community programs. And it has a science lab with microscopes and an art lab with a kiln, and in the main campus that has a whole variety of classrooms, media lab, a nutrition kitchen, and an outdoor kitchen here. And so there's a lot of amazing programming that happens, led by our partners at the Conservancy and the Park Service. And then this area where you see the field station and the outpost, this is all a public area that is open, daily. The outpost is open daily. The field station is open Wednesdays through Sundays. And together, these two facilities create a really exceptional experience for kids. So it was, the outpost is a 4-acre playground, unlike any I've ever seen. It's made with all natural materials that have themes that are relevant to the nature and history and culture of the park. And it was designed specifically to encourage beneficial risk. And it starts on this side for the younger kids up to 5, and then moving west, it slowly gets more risk-based, and for the older kids as you get to the end. And there are a series of activity pods here where we have different nature building and science and exploration and activities to do. And it was really informed by a lot of prototyping for 3 years in the lead up to Tunnel Tops. We had on the main post a pop-up that simulated some of these activities, and it also simulated what happened in the field station. And we did lots of surveys with kids and adults to find out what was the thing that really made that secret sauce and made it work. And those really helped guide and shape what was designed and built, along with a lot of experts, child development psychologists, doctors. We had a lot of people give input. So this part is really all about large muscle movement, risk taking, and it was designed with the intent of having that interaction with other youth, with their families, and we see that happening. And to date, we've had over 500,000 young people come between these two facilities in the opening year, which is pretty remarkable. And then the field station, which is geared towards any curious mind, and if you haven't been in there, I encourage you to go. It takes its cues from biological field station research stations, and it's curated. The designers and activators, they're called the Curiosity Lab, and it's really all about engaging your 5 senses and diving deeper into understanding a little bit more about the Presidio's nature and cultural history. And I won't be able to do it justice in explaining it. You really have to see it to understand it and believe it. So I encourage you to go next time you're in the park and pop in there and partake in some of the activities that are inside. So this is kind of the experience that some of the views that you might see down on the youth section of the Tunnel Tops.
So we have a question in chat that I want to read.
Oh, good.
Someone's asking, can you show on the map the best place to park for enjoying Tunnel Tops with children and elderly? So I know there's that transit center with parking. Are there other places where people park, or is it really, you're really going to be starting from there?
Yeah, well, so great question. Thank you. So there's a variety of parking spaces. If you're picnicking and you have a reservation, there's parking here. There's parking here, including some accessible spaces. And unfortunately, this map cuts off. This is a huge parking lot right next to the main parade ground. And these are 2 ADA spaces as well. If you have someone who needs that access, that's the really direct route in. If you want to enter from the up top plaza, if you're coming to the outpost, the sports basement is over here, and this parking lot is another entrance that gets you more directly accessed into the outpost and field station. So there's a lot more parking than appears on this map, but those are some of the primary. And I'll show you in a moment our website where you can really find out more and different options too on how to get to the park.
People are permitted to park in that parking lot where the sports basement is?
Yes. There's an area that says for sports basement, and then the area that is open parking for the park.
Got it. Yeah, I had someone misunderstand, saying, oh, they thought maybe sports basement wasn't happy about the park. And I thought that's crazy. Of course, they've got to be happy about this park, right? It's bringing all these people to their doorstep.
Yeah, I mean, I think, parking is always is a commodity in San Francisco. And so, yeah, we want to make sure that we have, a balance of, sort of dedicated sports basement and dedicated park, because that waterfront area is, that's a high demand space.
The ample parking that you have is bicycle parking, and you mentioned bike racks, but you also have the bike link lockers, which are
Yes.
very secure, and I think you pay like 5 cents an hour to use them.
Yeah, those are right here. And then we have some bike racks here and down at the lower campus along Mason. And then we just put in some other bike racks over here.
Great. Oh, and someone's asked a question about bus transportation, but you're gonna get to that in a little bit.
Yes, I'll cover that. Okay, so and then on the youth campus, I thought I'd just share one more video. This one's a little bit shorter, but from another one of our Presidio activators, and one of the projects that he launched, which actually will happen again this year. It was the inaugural year last year, but I will share this.
Today we're here to do Access to Adventure. This is an event that highlights recreation, outdoor adventure, and resources for families of children with disabilities. We're inviting different performances, different providers of recreation. The library's here.
I'm the mom of 2 kids, and one of them is autistic. We're so excited to just see everyone who's here and get to experience some of these activities and just get to hang out in Tunnel Tops Park, which is an incredible, incredible place to be.
I'm also a Presidio activator, so I've been part of the first round of the Activator Council, who are working to make sure that Presidio Tunnel Tops is accessible to everyone and welcoming for everyone. And so my role has been really helping make sure that it's inclusive for people with disabilities. We know that recreation and being outdoors benefits everyone, but some people don't have as easy access. People with disabilities often don't have as easy access because of barriers. It's super important for people to be able to come here and experience this space and know that it is for them too. So yeah, come see it, come be in this place and experience it.
Come and check it out. It's such a fun day, and there's so much to do here.
Okay. And that sort of wraps the tunnel top portion. I was going to talk just briefly about some of the other parts of the park, but one thing I wanted to say in closing, and that this park, Tunnel Tops, a park within a park, but the larger park too, really was built for, with, and by community. And when I say that, we've talked and I've shared some of the ways that engagement has happened in this presentation, but also a really critical part of having this project be realized was through the generosity of the community and through philanthropy. And our partners at the Golden Gate National Parks Conservancy were able to raise 98 of the $118 million that it took to build this. Otherwise, we would have had sort of a flat, grassy cover over a tunnel. So we're so grateful for that. And generosity through volunteerism too, which is a huge part of the park too. And we're so grateful to have such dedicated, as well as like one-time drop-in, but lots of volunteer hours go into taking care of this place. So with that, I think I will give a plug for the rest of the park. There's Tunnel Tops, a great place to begin, but so much more to see and do for those who don't already know. There's lots. We have 25 miles of the bikeways and trails. I'll just mention a couple things. You might not think of the Presidio former military base that has so much built space and historic, architecture and such, to have an incredible biodiversity in it. And it was inadvertently, by the Army being here for a couple hundred years while the city developed, and so much of the habitat, the native habitats of place, were also removed, that we actually have 12 native plant communities that exist in the park, that support hundreds of species of plants. We have over 350 species of birds, 60 species of bees. The list goes on. By square foot, I think that this is one of the top, if not the top, biodiversity spots in national parks by square foot. Just there's incredible diversity, and we have, restored lake, freshwater lake, free-flowing creeks. We're restoring a springs to bay watershed, an entire watershed. Art, you heard about Faviana's ancestral futurism. We also have the largest collection of Andy Goldsworthy's sculptures on view for public view in North America. So many things, but the best place to learn about all of this, we just launched our new website. I'm making a pitch for you to check it out. It's presidio.gov. And I'm going to just quickly open it to show you some of the questions we got about the shuttle, and some other things are made very easy now when you go to our website. So when you enter, if you go to the visit page, it can tell you how to get here in a variety of different ways, everything you need to know. And if you're coming from outside the city or even in other parts of the city and you want to take our free natural gas or electric, we have some electric ones now. You just click that this is the downtown route. You can play around in here, and if you're coming on a weekend, for example, here's your timetables. It tells you where it picks up from major transit connections downtown. And this Presidio Transit Center is right at the tunnel top, so it'll bring you right here. So lots of resources on that page, and bike parking and park maps. And on the Explore section, you can download the trails map. You can look at, all the different places, tunnel tops, different attractions. If you need help and you want some itinerary suggestions, you can go there. Since this is a big hiking group, I'll show you our trails site. All of the 12 major trail corridors are inventoried in a way that you can just sort of, click on something, you can find out, get some pictures, you can learn about the length, the trail surface, the estimated time, what there is to do. We have also accessibility information on the trails, so you can, scroll through and really learn a lot more and do some pre-planning for your visit. If you're hungry, if you want to stay, we have the only overnight group campground in San Francisco, lodging, and then also if you are interested in some of our events, you can, as I mentioned, you can sign up through our website and get our newsletter, or explore here and look at our event calendar. Every day, pretty much, we'll have different things happening, and you can check those out here online. So let's see if I could.
A comment and a question in chat. Serena asks, is there a less hilly way for me to bike home from the Presidio? I have to bike up Arguello and it's painful.
Oh, yes, the Arguello.
Well, let me ask you this though, Allison, those buses that go to the Presidio from downtown, do they have bike racks?
Yes.
So that might be one way to do it. Take, put your bike on the bus and then do the wiggle or something.
Yeah, if you're trying to get out there Arguello Gate, that's probably, there's constraints on other options. You could take the Presidio Promenade Trail and wind around by the Golden Gate Bridge and around the Coastal Trail and go out the 25th Avenue gate. But that, if you're trying to get to the Arguello Gate, and you could wiggle through Washington because we have some slow streets there too. So it's a better biking experience. That's another route, but check that map out because that'll be a big help to look at that.
Yeah, and then we have a comment. Lisa says, I love how dog-friendly Chrissy Field is. We come all the way from San Jose to enjoy it. My pup loved to run on the beach and visit with all the other pups.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and Serena's noting, yes, it's not the most direct way. I do think that 43 bus has a bike rack that doesn't the 43 bus go to around?
It does. And the 30 now comes down right below, right now, the terminus is at the sports basement parking lot right at the outpost. So the 30 and the 43 have direct, and then the Presidio also has bike racks and it provides those connections to the major transit connections in the city.
So we are almost at 8:30.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Yes. So
we usually do a contest. When do you stop sharing?
yeah.
I'll move to the contest in a second here. Oh, by the way, I found a photo of Michael Painter, the
Nice. Thank you.
architect, who we all have to thank for this. He died in 2018, but this is what a wonderful legacy from him. And we will be talking about some of the other stuff on upcoming shows, but for the contest, Allison, I just thought I'd do it this way. We have a contest, and Serena is the person from the Bay Trail. She, by the way, who just asked that question, who sends out the Bay Trail map cards that you have the option of winning. But she always gets to pick a place for every show, and so this is her place. I hope I'm saying this right. Trione Annandale Spring Lake outside of Santa Rosa, which is on the Bay Ridge Trail. And you can win either the Ridge Trail Guide or the Bay Trail map cards, but you have to, so someone's going to win this contest. I'm going to take the first person who in chat tells me the number of acres that Presidio Tunnel Tops takes up. So you can guess, we'll take the closest guess, but someone will get, I see 10 acres from Sarah Paul. Another 10. Let's see. Okay. I see Neil has nailed it. Neil says 14 acres. Is Allison, does that sound correct?
That's correct, Neil.
Send me an email with your address, and I will get you. You have to choose either the Bay Trail map cards or the Ridge Trail Guide. But Allison, really want to thank you for the very thorough overview of the Presidio Tunnel Tops. One of the things we say on this show is that, public space, it's not magic that makes it happen. It's a lot of hard work. And, you said you've been there for 22 years. You've really seen this whole thing go from idea to fruition. And I hope it's something you feel very, very proud of, because you should. It's a great, great asset for the Bay Area. So congratulations on that. I think you will be seeing members of our audience attending it. We do have our next show will be October the 4th, 2023. I think we're working on we're going to be talking about the Ferry Building in, very important place in downtown San Francisco. I'll have a San Francisco city guide who I think is going to be joining us to talk about some pretty cool aspects of that not a lot of people know. But we always close by playing Happy Trails. So we will kick. Everybody hearing that?
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Who cares about the clouds if we're together? Just sing a song and bring the sunny weather. Happy trails to you until we meet again. Until we meet again.
Yes, the Presidio Tunnel Tops will be like right over here. Want to thank a few people. Midnight Kitchen providing the music for our slides. Jason Myers, who sings at Happy Trails. My wife, Sarah, who always gives me a lot of great feedback on this. And all of you for tuning in. By the way, Midnight Kitchen will be playing at the Solano Stroll coming up next weekend. And then they'll be at the Kensington Farmers Market. But now's the time when we let folks unmute and ask any questions. Allison, can you stick around for a few more minutes? See if any folks want to voice questions. Lee just got back from a trip from far away, and I know you're pretty tired. So if you need to sign off, no worries, my friend.
I might take you up on that, but I just kind of want to say a few things about tunnel tops that I noticed while I was out there, because I just think they're so interesting. You know, I think when people go out there, it's such a well done park. And one of the things I sort of want to emphasize from what I've learned about the making of this park and the planning of it is sometimes, you know, as people who try to build these types of spaces, there's kind of a rush to just kind of build it and get it done. But the fact that the Presidio Trust and its partners worked to reach out to the larger community to kind of find out what really makes this space helpful and usable, inviting for people, turned it into what it is today, which is just such an exciting place. Like when I was out there, I saw kids going through the outdoor playground, and it's you know, it's well done when you see little kids running around, and it activates their curiosity and their excitement. I saw little kids just running from place to place. They couldn't even figure out what to focus on because they're so excited about everything. And for the adults, there's kind of little subtle design elements that people may not notice that I think that really adds to the experience at the park. You know, and there's the kind of benches, and not the benches, the seating, you know, that they have out there with the tables and the little fun sort of tops that you can sit on. That's kind of cool to play with. That's something that's really unique. I think even adults like are excited by it. I saw a whole bunch of adults who were just jumping on those things and playing. But all of those elements have an orange color to it to kind of match the Golden Gate Bridge, which is kind of the main iconic view that you have there. So it's kind of a subtle touch to it. And the benches that they have along the shoreline have these kind of wavy structure to kind of match the water line there. So there's all these little subtle designs that you probably don't register consciously, but subconsciously it adds so much to the experience. It's just a great park.
It's really, to me, it's that view of the bridge that just grabs you when you get there. And you're like, wow, this is the best view of the bridge I've ever had. And, you know, that bridge was not available to us because it was above, you know, a major highway. Again, it's
no, that's right.
Reading something.
That's absolutely right.
Out of thin air.
Yeah. And you're right about the bridge being the iconic view, and where those kind of orange tabletops and seats are located. I when I was out there, I took this picture of it that sort of looks at a view of the tables towards the bridge. It's sort of, for some reason in my mind, it always conjures this image of those old wine spritzer commercials. It's kind of sitting there enjoying yourself.
Aww. Well, thank you, Lee, for all that those comments. I'm so glad that you enjoy the park, and I hope you come back lots. It's your park. It's what it's for, and it makes it when people are enjoying it. And when you were talking about the youth running around, I wanted to mention one thing. In the field station, there's a post office box, and they can leave letters to the park, and they are just brilliant. You read them, and you're like, oh my gosh. Hearing these young people's thoughts about nature, it's very inspiring.
It's like you waited a long time for this thing to open, Allison, right? And so it must be very gratifying to see it reach fruition and to see this excitement about it.
It's beyond all of it took a huge, you know, there was a huge team. Everyone's expectations were blown on this one, which was really, yeah, just amazing. So
we have a nice comment in chat from Ross, who says, when we did our Around the Bay tour of the Bay Trail, they circumnavigated the Bay Trail. The Tunnel Tops was a great stop to explore and get lunch. I've been back so many times. So it is really cool that it's right on the Bay Trail, because I think the Bay Trail.
Excuse me, Ronnie, I've been there last year at the Tunnel Tops.
Will you be going?
I just had a picnic. I was picnicking.
Yeah, it's a great place for a picnic.
Like sandwich too.
Yep, so good. We'll have to meet there sometime, Paco, and have a sandwich.
Oh, by the way, the art viewing adventure's coming up.
That's true. That's my other program. It's coming up Monday. It's going to be good. Well, any other questions out there? Anybody else want to unmute, or you can make a question. You can ask a question, make a comment, or throw something in the chat. Seeing some nice comments in chat. And Allison, we're really glad we were able to go into so much depth about Presidio Tunnel Tops. It is like when you talk about public space, it's something that's really, it's got a lot of buzz right now, as well it should. So
There's actually playgrounds too.
well, yeah, we talked about all that, playgrounds. It's kind of something for everyone.
Yes.
Any last thoughts, Allison?
Well, I was going to invite everybody, if you are interested in coming out next Sunday, this Sunday, we're going to have our second Sunday event, and World Arts West is going to be presenting Dances in the Park with an amazing, you can check it out. I'll drop, I think you dropped in the chat, the website, Rodney, already, but it's going to be an amazing day of different dance groups. I think there's 8 or 10 from all regions of the world. It's just going to be beautiful, right on top of Tunnel Tops. So, and it's free, and so come out and enjoy.
Great. We'll wrap this up. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back next month with more great stories of public space in the Bay Area. But for now, I'll leave you and just say happy trails. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Happy trails, Rodney.
Trails, Paco.
Thanks, Allison, for a great
Thanks,
presentation.
Aston.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening. See you.